I now recognize the gentleman, Vice Chair Gomez. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for calling this important hearing. And as we've known for far too long, words have consequences, especially when they're coming from our elected leaders. The rise of anti-LGBTQ violence is unavoidably linked with the rise of inflammatory, dangerous rhetoric coming from the far right, especially since the election of former President Trump. Make no mistake, those on the far right who are spreading misinformation and hateful rhetoric are often the same individuals and groups who help orchestrate and carry out the January 6th insurrection. Just like in the aftermath of the 2020 election, extremists are intentionally manufacturing falsehoods about the LGBT community. They are attempting to stir violence and scare Americans as they push their radical agenda to roll back the clock on civil rights. People look to their elected leaders to tell them the truth. Instead, Republican candidates and politicians parrot misinformation and hate larger platform. When violent extremists believe these lies, it paints a target on the backs of LGBTQ communities and leads to real-world violence. Now, Republican lawmakers across the country are moving to make discrimination official government policy. This year alone, we've seen more than 20 states introduce Don't Say Gay bills aimed at erasing LGBTQ history and culture from being taught and denying LGBTQ students the ability to be supported and affirmed in their education. But it's not just at the state level. In October, 38 of my Republican colleagues introduced federal legislation inspired by Florida's Don't Say Gay or Trans law, which would restrict federal funding for schools that incorporate curriculum that recognizes and supports LGBTQ students. Ms. Pocock, what is a federal why is a federal Don't Say Gay or Trans bill so dangerous, particularly for LGBTQ youth? And how does it risk further undermining the health and safety of LGBTQ young people?
Thank you. The difficulty of a bill like a Don't Say Gay bill is that it erases us. It doesn't amplify to young people their mentors, teachers, congressmen, congresswomen who are similar to them, who are doing really incredible work for our country. It doesn't set the platform up for them to see themselves in their future, but it also minimizes the experience of their families. And so really, again, the best thing we can do for young people is see them, hear them, and recognize them.
Thank you. As somebody who has a sibling who's gay, I grew up back in a very conservative area of California back in the 80s, Riverside, and not seeing individuals who had leadership positions or also just straight up discriminated against because they're LGBTQ, gay or lesbian or non-binary or trans. It was something I know had a profound impact on him, but also on myself. It's something that made me question why things are the way they are. Why are somebody that I care about, somebody that I love deeply, is being punished for who they are? And schools, oftentimes when you don't get that affirmation in your school, then you don't want to go to school. Unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, my brother never finished high school, but he ended up going and getting his GED. He was smarter than I ever was or would be. He ended up going off to UC Santa Cruz and getting his degree, and then became a teacher and educator. But it is showing those examples, I think, does make a difference. So thank you for mentioning that, Doctor, because I think that's what we need to ensure. So this is not the end of this discussion and the end of this fight, but we're going to keep pushing back on that rhetoric that I believe is so dangerous for the health of our young people, but also just for our communities as a whole. And with the last remaining time I have, I just want to congratulate Chairwoman Maloney for her tenure here in Congress, and then also being a champion for women's rights, LGBT rights, the disenfranchised, and ensuring that we have a stronger democracy. With that, I yield back. Congratulations, Madam Chairwoman.